It's a 30-day deal, I hope.
Larry, could you talk a little bit about your role still with the organization and your position?
I think Tom and John are probably the best ones to talk about it. To me, there's not much of a story there, but you're better off hearing it from Tom or from John. Mike Gordon's role has evolved over time, to be sure. But just saying to Tom that it was 2 years ago we were down here talking about Dustin Pedroia's contract, and Tom and I and Mike Gordon and Dustin's representatives had a dinner together. So he's been involved in things over the years, but it's gotten so I really don't think there's.
Is that Mike Holmes?
Yeah, it might be Mike Gordon. Let me see if that is. Sorry, I forgot to turn it off. I'll do that now.
I think a lot has been made of this story, but basically John and Larry and I have the same relationship today. Our 14th year as we had when we started in 2003. So Mike has a significant role at FSG. That really does not impact the Red Sox very much. He's got a more important role in Liverpool, but he's a very valuable partner. We also seek counsel, we haven't talked about this much, from a lot of our partners. A lot of our partners are very astute, and they give us advice in a whole bunch of matters. But as regarding the Red Sox, it's the same structure. And then the other thing is it's a very collegial structure. So when we are talking about important decisions, we welcome smart input from Mike and other partners as well.
Tom, the club directory of officers and executives now lists Mike Gordon third, just behind you and John. How can you then say that it hasn't?
Well,
the Red Sox structure hasn't.
That's a fair question. I didn't actually see. It's not like I have reviewed the club directory. It probably was a mistake because. As I said, we don't have an FSG masthead. We should have created one, but I really do think it's a bit of a tempest in the teapot.
And that was not a club directory. It was a listing, I think, put out by the central office trying to figure out where FSG goes and where the Red Sox go. The official club directory comes out in the press guide, which is due out in a week or so, I think.
Larry, is your role any different when it comes to baseball decisions than it's been?
No, if anything, it's we have the advantage of an additional voice. For example, we're talking about Pedroia. Mike's a very astute guy when it comes to financial matters, present value calculation, structure of contracts, and he was very helpful in that. As Tom said, this is a team, and things evolve. And some days some guys are involved, and some days others are more involved. It's not really any kind of power structure. That's just not the right way to read it.
With so many voices, Larry and Tom, involved in the organization, decision-making, baseball and otherwise, is it a bigger challenge today than it was years ago, or no?
I think you should just look at our track record for 14 years, rather than hear me say things about how we're doing or how well it works. I think that it works. As Tom said, it's a collegial group. It's we operate with a lot of debate and dialogue, and the proof is in the pudding. I don't think there are too many voices, as you put it.
I think it's a very collaborative group, and again, there are a lot of things that we probably don't talk about. All of us are involved in league matters. I think the Red Sox play a significant role in a lot of the issues that come up that are league issues, whether they deal with issues like pace of play or BAM or trying to bring in a new generation of fans. So, I think that we bring a lot to the table, and I think it's good for our fans.
I think that's a good example. Tom and Mike have been involved for a couple of years in trying to reform aspects of the game, day-to-day practices and speed of game, pace of game, length of game, and that's been going on. So all I'm saying is I can understand the interest in Palace Intrigue. There just isn't very much palace intrigue to report, and that Mike's role has, as I said, evolved over time and plays a very helpful role, as do other partners, as Tom pointed out.
Could I just clear up? So, is it correct that FSG is the parent company of the Red Sox?
That's correct.
That's correct.
And Mike is the president or CEO of FSG?
The president.
He's the president of FSG. Yeah.
Tom, are you saying it's a mistake that his name is higher in the guide now than Larry's?
I think that
In the Red Sox guide, in something that's supposed to talk about the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think that we didn't see. I mean, I've never even seen a masthead in my life till it was shown to us last night, and Mike is involved with FSG, and Larry. You know, I don't want to argue about whose name is above whose, but that was a mistake that we're going to correct.
Tom, Yohan Moncada arrived this morning for his physical questions. One, did you have an opportunity to meet him?
I was actually out of the room, but I know that John and Larry met him.
And there's no intrigue in that. Tom did meet him, and I did meet him, and that didn't mean anything.
I do want to clarify that we have not a signed deal with Yohan. So
Pending the physical, correct?
yes.
I wonder if both of you could discuss from an ownership standpoint the process. I mean, shattered all records for the signing of an amateur player, either international or here. From an ownership standpoint, what goes into making that decision? How difficult a decision is it to make? And from your standpoint, how much risk is involved?
Well, the first thing is that we have to have, and we do have great faith in our baseball operations people. Eddie and Ben and the staff all had a very, very strong review and recommendation for this player. They all felt that if he was an amateur player in the draft, that he would go very, very early. You know, I'm not saying 1-1, but he'd go very early. So, you know, in a situation like that, we put a lot of weight in the recommendation of our baseball ops people. And we felt like we wanted to have depth in our organization. That's very important to us. This is one way of adding depth. I know some people have said, well, what does that mean, you know, in terms of other players on the present roster? But you can only be stronger by having a great minor league system, and that's where he's going to start, and then we'll take it from there.
I don't think it's out of character for us to invest heavily. In 2003, with the disappointing season, we increased our payroll about $35 million the next year because we didn't want to finish second. In 2006, we increased our payroll about $30 or $35 million. So we have invested in the future, and many times it's worked out in the short term. Sometimes there are longer term investments, and but we have been doing this since the beginning. We've been talking about a commitment to winning. So it sometimes gets a little frustrating that we can't communicate more effectively the fact that we are willing to sacrifice some profits for a winning baseball team.